What's up, y'all? Welcome back. Welcome back. Today, I'm here with 4 book reviews, 4 books that I read recently. Let's just get into it. Okay, so what order do I want to do these in? I'm always conflicted. I'm like, should I do the one that I read on my Kindle first, like the ebook first, and then my physical copies? Should I do it in the order that I read them, or should I do them in the order that I like them from most to least, or least to most? I don't know. I'll be switching up. Which one haven't I done in a long time? I say let's get right into it and don't even know. Um, let's do it in the order that I read them in. Yeah. Okay, so the first one we have is Neighbors and Other Stories by Diane Oliver. Fun fact, she is from Charlotte, North Carolina, which I'm a North Carolinian. My husband was born and raised in Charlotte. So I just thought that was cool. This was recommended to me actually by Shelby over on Shelby in the Book Club, which I'll put up on the screen. I know y'all probably know who that is, but she recommended this book and it was good. Like, I know I said I don't really like short stories like that. Not I don't like them, but I don't naturally gravitate towards them. So when she recommended this to me, I'm like, obviously, like she has good recommendations, so this must be a banger, and it was. It's a collection of short stories that really center around race relations, integration, segregation. It's set in the Jim Crow South. It talks a lot about family, like family units, familial bonds. It talks a lot about community as a whole, and then like that individual, I won't say individual, but like that family community within the household, and then like on a bigger scale as well. So yeah, let me see how many short stories total. Then I'm gonna tell y'all my faves. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's 10 short stories and an introduction. The short stories, like I said, they all have a central theme of what I mentioned earlier: race, integration, segregation, racism, systematic oppression. But it was 2 that I really like. Actually 3. So let me go into that. So the first one, Neighbors, it resembled almost like a Ruby Bridges, except the son that was going to school, it was a boy instead of Ruby Bridges. And he was the first one being integrated into this school. And it just talked about like what that looks like for him as the little boy that's going in, that fear, his family members knowing that he's the only one that's going to be going in there, his sister who plays a really big role in his life and her support, and then like the community's response to it. And it's good because like it's a lot. It's a whole lot to put on the shoulders of one little kid. You know what I mean? And it just really brought that to the light again. Like we saw with Ruby Bridges, that wasn't the only case. That's just the one that we know about. A lot of kids were the first to be integrated into their schools, onto their school buses, just into these white spaces where they're expected to coexist, where they're not wanted. You know what I mean? So that one, I'm assuming, is one of her more famous ones, which is why it has its name in the title, Neighbors and Other Stories. But yeah, that one was really powerful to me. Another one that I really liked, it was dark. It was dark. That was Mint Juleps Not Served Here. Probably one of the darker stories in this. But what I liked about it is that one, it took a turn I wasn't expecting. And then 2, it talked about like colonialism on a micro scale. Like I've been reading a lot of books about like colonialism on a country size scale, on like a community size scale. But this talked about like individual families, how they're expected to kind of assimilate in ways that only make sense to the assimilator, like how they're expected to change their ways and expected to live a certain way, and it's just not fair. So this story in particular is about a family that's living off grid. It's a black family that's living off grid. They only go into town for the husband to sell like the stuff that he's making and stuff like that. And every so often they get these white visitors all up in their business. I mean, they live like in the middle of nowhere. These people wandering on their land and trying to tell them what they need to be doing with their kid, you know? So it kind of takes a turn, gets a little grim. But the whole purpose of it for me was to see, like, yes, I've been reading about colonialism and like its negative impacts on a countrywide scale, on a national scale, on a worldwide global scale. But even it's good to be able to put like your smaller lens on and see, like, we talk about global impact that's impacting individuals as well. It's global, but I forget now that we're talking about individual people as well. So much so that we could say it's global, but it still goes down to like the individual level. And so that's why I like that, made me think about that. And then honestly, those was my top two. I did like The Closet on the Top Floor. That one was about the like a girl going off to college and she in a white space and just kind of the perception around that. I like that too, but not as much as I did those two. All of the short stories was good, but those were the two that like I really had to sit with because it's a lot, you know, but good. If you like short stories, it's a good one. If you don't like short stories or you don't gravitate towards them like me, I still feel like you would like this. Same way I felt when I read Hue and Cry. I don't naturally like short stories like that, but they were so good and they just felt so like important to the conversation right now surrounding race relations. And this made me think about how even though we've come so far from the Jim Crow South setting that this book was set in, and we've been integrated, and you know, segregation is a thing of the past and things like that. We ain't that far from it. You know what I mean? Like, you still have to exist in white spaces that don't want you there. You still have to exist and assimilate to a certain degree. And if not, you resisting and you fighting and you going against the grain. There's consequences to that too. So yeah, I like this book. Thank you, Shelby, from Shelby in the Book Club, for suggesting it. It was a hit. It was a hit. And I've never read, just like, who did the introduction? Who did the introduction? Hold on. Tayari Jones did the introduction, and she mentioned how even as somebody who was very well versed in Black voices and literature, she had never heard of Diane Oliver. Me either. And so this was my introduction to Diane Oliver. Glad that I read it. Glad it was recommended. Again, thank you. And if you have never heard of and if you haven't heard of Diane Oliver, I recommend it as well. Good book. That's number one. I'm trying to go in order that I read these in. Number two, I actually was required to read this book for school, and I didn't want to read it. But as I read it, I was like, oh, okay, it's some good stuff in here. I didn't want to read it. I didn't plan to read it. I was required to read it, but I still found value. That is Managing in Turbulent Times by Peter Drucker. One of my professors loves this man. I think he actually taught her. So one of my professors, Peter Drucker, was one of her professors. And so naturally she like, oh, she loves him so much. And she always want to like introduce some of his writing into her classes. And that's how we got to this book, Managing in Turbulent Times. It was boring at first. I ain't gonna lie. It was boring at first. But it had some good stuff in it. Like, yeah, like it talks a lot about the economy, local economy, global economy. It talks about how turbulent times can affect the economy. It talks about the labor markets and how to manage during those times as an individual, as a leader, and as a nation. Yeah, and just going back to the basics, liquidity, productivity, assets, things like that. This is very much I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of like one of those books. If people really like economics, they probably have read this book. If you really like to know about like stuff like that, I feel like you would read this book. It was interesting because you think like a lot of these turbulent times that he's talking about, once again, just like with Neighbors, we ain't far from it. Like we still are in a lot of the same situations that we was in when this book was written in 1980. So interesting. It's pretty boring. It's pretty boring, but it has gems in it. I'm glad that I at least enjoyed portions of it, some of it, but yeah, a lot of people like Peter Drucker. I see why. It's a lot of gems in it. He also said this, which I thought was good. Let me get it. Talks a lot about inflation, the knowledge worker. Did I not highlight it? Hold on. I know I did not highlight it. I'm gonna be mad if I didn't. I don't think I did. But anyways, he was talking about how the fundamentals don't change, like period, which is a good principle to understand. But also how instead of trying to always do like the most innovative thing and like always trying to just come up with something new, instead of trying to be wise all the time, you should also think about being conscientious. You should think about what's the best thing to do, and not always what's the wisest, what's the most innovative, what's the newest, most exciting, trendy way to do things. What is the best thing to do where we can be conscientious of everything involved, where we could think about, natural resources. We could think about the impact it has on people. We could think about the bottom line all around. If we're conscientious, how would that change the decisions that we make? And so, yeah, good book. It's good for what it is. It was boring at times, but it had some gems in it, and I'm actually shocked. I ain't highlight none of them. I guess I was just so annoyed. I had to read this at the time, but yeah, it still has some gems in it. So that's book 2. Book 3. Actually, Buddy read this with my husband. That's Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Never read The Martian, which is his most popular book, but everybody was saying this was such a good book, and we gave it a try. We read it together. My husband listened to it on audio, I believe, and I think he said it took some time to get like used to the narrator. And I read this, and I just think, at first, this is a type of thing that we will watch together. Like, I know there's a movie coming out and it's starring Ryan Gosling. We will watch this. This is like, we love a space movie. We love a Martian movie. We love an astronaut movie. You the only one out there? Love that. We eat those up. And so, but when sometimes like things that I like in movies, I don't always like to read about them. This was good. It wasn't like the best thing I've ever read. It wasn't like 100% just like, man, like I just head over heels, but it was good. It was good. It's told from it has dual timelines. So what it is it's this man who is a scientist turned teacher, but still a scientist, and he has a mission. He's on a mission to help save the Earth from this catastrophic event. So you have like the present time where he's in space, and he is this is not a spoiler, it's in the synopsis, where he is like fighting to recover his memory from like, it seems like short-term amnesia, and then it's flashing back to the events leading up to him being in space. And so you kind of have these dual timelines, and they're gonna converge at a certain point. And you just, you get to see what the events that led up to him getting there, and then present day where he's like there trying to help solve this catastrophic problem. Things happen, choices were made, and yeah, it has a slight humor in it. It's sci-fi, and it's heavy on the sci. It's heavy on the sci. Sci-fi book that's very much, if you like that kind of stuff, you like it. They spare no details. He spares no details. But yeah, I thought it was good. The ending was satisfying to me. Yeah, and I liked the fact that you didn't really know where the book was going until you were in that chapter. Like, it wasn't super, super predictable. I kept having theories that never came true. Then once I got to the end where I'm realizing where it went, I didn't think that that's where it would end at. So I liked the fact that it wasn't super predictable. It was interesting, kept me engaged, and as the book went on, I liked it more. So it started off just kind of like, oh yes, okay, and then it got better and better over time. So yeah, if you like stuff like that, check it out. Yeah, pretty good. Unlikely friendship in there, unlikely companionship. If you like that type of stuff, that's in there, which I really do like unlikely friendships. I think about like Remarkably Bright Creatures, where I really like Tova's friendship with the giant Pacific squid. I mean, giant Pacific octopus. And it's just like, that's cool. So if you like stuff like that, you'll probably like that. Okay, last book. This is the book I read on my Kindle. So I'm gonna put it up on the screen. That is Pathogenesis. Let me see who wrote this book. By Jonathan Kennedy. Yeah, this book was interesting. It was split up. Let me see. I want to be accurate with what I'm about to tell y'all. So this book is set up into different sections. So it has like Paleolithic plagues, Neolithic plagues, ancient plagues, medieval plagues, colonial plagues, revolutionary plagues, industrial plagues, and then plagues of poverty. This book is very heavy on like evolution. It's very heavy on the role of microbes in evolution and in like making history what it is. Because a lot of times we like to think of these great historical figures as like shaping history to make it what it is. But the argument of this book is that microbes, plagues, viruses, bacteria had just as much of a hand at shaping history than actual historical figures, and humans, period, in their immune system and what they were able to like overcome on an individual scale had more impact than historical figures that we like to put a lot of like things on. So it was a cool concept, and it was interesting. It made me think about when I read Everything is Tuberculosis, and I thought about like, dang, people only care about that dollar. They only care about money. They don't care nothing about, they just care about making a profit. And that's kind of what this made me think about. It made me think about how things that are very curable, very treatable, still kill millions upon millions upon millions of people because it don't make money. It don't make money, and it don't make sense for certain people to be able to like solve those things in developing countries. And it was like, it reminded me of like feelings that I got when I was reading Everything is Tuberculosis, except remove the hope. I felt like it wasn't no hope in this book. It was like reading, it was no like story to accompany it like Everything is Tuberculosis. There was the information on like the scientific information, the historical information, but there was no other stuff to go along with it. So it's almost like reading a very interesting textbook. So he wasn't worried about giving you hope. He wasn't worried about any of that. It was really just like information, making the case to show just how much microbes have affected history and the individual person or groups of people over time, like changing the trajectory of things. So I thought it was interesting. I was just like, I don't even know, why did I start reading this book? I feel like I was just walking through the library or scrolling. I don't even know where I saw this book to start with, but I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And, start reading it. I got it from my library on a Libby app, read the ebook, and it was interesting. It was interesting. It's pretty short, not that much, but it's very, like I said, very scientific, very historical. And he's making a case of the impact of microbes, the impact of, bacteria, viruses, and people, and how poverty plays a role in that, how colonialism has played a role in that, how wanting influence and power is more of a driving factor than human life. He talked a lot about life expectancy, how that changed over years. Talked about how like the big nations, how their life expectancy changed and what changed them. Talked a lot about China, Mao's regime. Talked about India, Africa, the U.S., and just like in developing countries, a lot of just it was a lot of information. No hope. It's not like it was hopeless, but it was just like it was straight. This is my research. This is history. This is what history says. And yeah, wasn't bad. I don't think it's a book for every single person. Again, if you would like to read a textbook, you would like to read it. It's like a short, condensed textbook. You would like to read that. I thought it was interesting. If you have any interest in stuff like that, you probably like it. But yeah, y'all, that's it. That's the 4 books that I recently read. Let me know. Have you read any of these? Have you read Pathogenesis? Let me know. Let me know what y'all think. And I'm going to see y'all on the next one.